This is episode 110 of the I Love Kelowna podcast. It's an interview with Regier from the Trade Exchange, and we recorded this May 26th, right at the height of COVID, the shutdowns here in Kelowna. So we talk a lot about how things are going with the Trade Exchange and with my real estate business and some predictions for the future. And it's pretty interesting. So this was about a month ago, and we recorded it over Zoom and then converted it to audio for the podcast. But interestingly, for some reason, our conversation starts right in the middle of something. So the very beginning was clipped off. I just wanted to add this intro so you understand what's going on. Anyway, Regier, fantastic guy. Met him in 2014 when I joined Fair Realty, and we've been friends ever since. I've done several deals with him and his family since then, and he runs the Trade Exchange, which is just such a cool barter system with dozens and dozens of companies here in Kelowna. So I hope you enjoyed the interview, and we'll talk to you later. Bye.
Yeah, the activity's starting to pick up. We're starting to see some stuff come through from our accountants. Our spas are starting to ask, what's happening and what everybody is doing, and our spas are now looking at, some of them are looking at July 1st. I had a massage therapist, cranial sacral person, say that she's not going to go back into business because it's. She can't deliver a service. She feels that with the barriers that are put in place, the health barriers, that her energy isn't going to get through, and she's not going to be able to be truthful to her, I don't know, her energy or her cause. So and then the other one is, starting on July 1st, and she's just not ready to start. So she's just going to start on July 1st. So it's all over. My welders, my electricians, my tradespeople, they're all busy. They're still going on. They're still doing stuff.
Mm-hmm. And you're at the Coat Lab. What's it like? Is it pretty quiet over there?
Well, yeah, I came in this morning. So I've been in, other than a month, I've been in here on a weekly basis, either to pick stuff up or to work a couple hours in the quiet, and it has been quiet. So we came in on the 17th or the 18th, I guess it was, of May, thinking that we're ready to start, get back at it, because I'd been in town and I'd gone to get a couple batteries from one of the local battery stores, and I was in line. And people were doing business, and there was no pause. It was sort of like this other world that wasn't aware that there was a disaster taking place, and it was just in sort of our non-essential part of the world where there was a disaster. Mm-hmm. And so I said to the staff, we need to get back to the office, and we need to get going. So. They came back in, and the lights are off, mm-hmm. and there's no smell of fellow workers. There's
no coffee smell.
There's no coffee smell, right? And so you don't have the smell of activity. And they said that it was just too eerie.
Mm-hmm. And that was the 17th. It was like the
17th. Yeah. So now I don't know what's the date today, the 25th?
26th today.
26th.
Yeah.
So the 26th, now we've got actually somebody sitting at a desk. And so there's new protocol coming in. So now, and it's for a 60-something-year-old male, I don't know that it matters, but the 60-something-year-old person, coming in, now I've got to wash my hands and I have to self-check my temperature,
right?
Before I come in, and I've gone, okay, well, this is all a bunch of new stuff that is is it going to slow me down? Well, it sure as heck is makes things different. Like it's another stop in the thought process.
Yeah, friction. And the good news is, like, people in great shape like you don't have a ton to worry about. From what we know, this is not something that's really damaging to people who are in great shape.
Well, that's what I think, and I'm not sure that everybody buys that, but that's sort of been my thoughts. I don't know how I could be any better prepared, for being infected than I am now.
Mm-hmm. Are you still running every day?
Yeah. Well, not every day. I mean, I work out 5-6 days a week. I'm either doing one or two, either running or cycling, or both of them every day. And trying to get in the water. I'll be in the water probably next week, swimming
Nice.
in the lake.
In the lake, yeah. That's pretty cold.
Yeah, wetsuit. I've got the wetsuit, so we'll be okay.
You wouldn't try it without a wetsuit.
I don't think so. No,
it can be pretty dangerous.
Yeah. I understand, Luke, that you can lose a lot of weight if you get into that hyperthermic mode. Where you really start shaking. This is Tim Ferriss's 4-hour work week. I think that's one of the ways. I
do take cold showers, but at least my feet are on solid ground. So I think the danger, like a lot of people think that if you fall into the ice, it's very painful. But as I understand it, it's painful for a couple of seconds and then you just go numb and you cannot move. You can't move your legs or your arms, and that's how people drown. When they fall into the ice, it's not super painful. It's more numbness that overtakes you.
Do you know Wim Hof, or you follow Wim Hof at all?
I've watched a bit. Yeah. He's a real fascinating guy. So it seems to make sense. I'm not about to backpack in my boxer shorts up Mount Everest, but I'm going to try. I've been trying the cold showers, and I go out for brisk walks. I don't run like you do, but somebody told me if you want to get good benefits from walking, you should walk like you're about to miss a flight. So like as fast as you can walk without running is the way to do it. And it's easier on your knees and stuff, right? Yeah. But I'll do it with just a t-shirt, when it's cold and snowing. Might put a toque on. So I try to expose myself to the cold, and I think it's good. I always feel better.
Yeah, I watched your rant, your walking rant.
Right?
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, I just, a lot of people are feeling kind of frustrated about this situation, and we seem to be getting mixed messages a little bit from the so-called experts, like everybody's going to die, and then, well, maybe not. And I've heard stories like your massage person who are just kind of too razzled by this whole thing, and it's affecting people, and that's unfortunate. So.
Yeah, there's so many people that are of sort of they have such large followings. So you listen to, which surprised me the other day, Joe Rogan is, and I'm going to assume that you will soon be overtaking Joe Rogan in your space, in that space. But Joe Rogan had a piece the other day about just there's too many conspiracy theorists out there for there not to be a conspiracy.
Yeah.
And so. The other day there was Tony Robbins. If Anthony Robbins isn't about as I don't know about pure, but he delivers a pretty good message with pretty good intent. So he had a piece the other day with 12 doctors, and it got pulled down from YouTube. And
crazy.
It's crazy. So that and that's messaging. I mean, we still are adults, and we still should be able to make decisions for ourselves.
That's right.
We are adults, and we should be able to make decisions for ourselves without putting the other person at peril. I mean, we have to be conscious of that. But if we cannot hear both sides of the argument, then I think we have a challenge, and it's really, I think the challenge now, Luke, and as far as I see it, is that there is such a divide that there isn't room for the discussion.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and that we can't come out of it without hating one another, as opposed to, I get it, I get your opinion, I hear where you're coming from. I don't agree with it, but I hear where you're coming from.
That's honestly my biggest concern, is the animosity that people get in some of these discussions. Like, they just get really angry about it. And as far as like what's true and what's false, I'm a little more optimistic, because the United States has this thing called the Constitution, which is pretty solid. I mean, it's been challenged over the centuries. And the right of free speech. The government's not allowed to interfere with your right to have an opinion. So you can't go into a crowded theater and yell fire when it's not true. If it's true, you're free to say that, right? But you can say, this is what I think. I'm a doctor. This is what I think about this virus. And you're totally allowed to do that. And what I think is happening, so in the States, you see Georgia opened, Texas is open, and everybody on the one side say, you're all going to die. You're a bunch of idiots. Now, as the weeks roll by and bodies are not piling up, I think even people who are on the other side of that are going to start to say, do I really want to be stuck in my house? Like, all my friends are down at the pub. I'm going to go. You know what I mean? Eventually, just that social kind of proof that I used to give an analogy about air travel. You don't have to be an aircraft engineer to determine that it's safe. So when you see everybody coming off the plane, and you're waiting to board, and they're happy and they're hugging each other and they're excited, your brain goes, okay, it's probably pretty safe to get on that plane, right? You don't have to go inspect the plane and check the tires right? Yeah. You just see how other people are reacting. And right, if everybody was coming off vomiting and like holding on to railings and screaming and crying, you'd be like, holy crap, like maybe that plane's not such a good idea, right? Yeah. So our brain works that way. So I think with more and more people going outside, socializing, shaking hands, having coffee together, over time, people will see that and go, maybe I shouldn't be panicking so much anymore,
So 2 weekends ago, so last week I had Luke Weller from Hydrofly, a parasailer, Kelowna parasailer. So he was in, and Luke was we were talking about business. He said, I'm busy. He said, I'm out on the weekend. He said, I've got a barrel of disinfectant that I drip the life jackets in. I've got hand sanitizers. I've got, I give people, we can fit 6 in the boat and be spaced properly, or U12 can come on if you want to take the risk type of idea. And he said, his comment was like, somebody's got to be a cowboy.
Yeah.
Right. And so he's just going like, nobody's stopping me. Here are the precautions I'm taking. Now you decide whether or not, and I think that's sort of the Sweden example, like you decide whether or not you want to take the risk.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, and I asked him, okay, give me the demographic. And he said, well, the demographic is 20 something. And we know they're from history being there. They're bulletproof at that point.
Right. Yeah. Do you know who the first person who tried bungee jumping was?
No.
I mean, that's kind of, it's something I still don't think I would ever do.
Yeah.
But somebody had to say, I'm going to tie some rubber bands to my ankles and throw myself off this bridge and see what happens.
Yeah. That wasn't me. No.
Yeah. And now hundreds of people do it, right? So yeah, you're right. Someone's got to go first.
Well, that's it. And so is that, and I think that's part of the risk analysis that we do. We try to figure out whether or not it can be done, and we know from our life experiences what the probabilities of, same as the airplane. What's the probability? Well, we can go through that quick calculation, and that's where decisions come from, right? I'm just going to do this quick calculation, and I know what my risks of driving at 130 are and getting caught, because I've driven at 130 for a lot of kilometers and I haven't gotten caught. So it's a pretty good. I'll get a ticket, once out of 70 times or whatever that number is. So we sort of do that mental calculation. So we do the same thing with this current crisis. What are the odds? Well, there's been 8 cases in British Columbia, and mostly in senior centers, and boy, they're pretty slim.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What do you think of you're really connected to business with the trade exchange? You're dealing with all kinds of different companies. Do you see sort of a shift happening in that people are always going to want to spend money and do things and get goods and services? But it kind of reminds me of when Zoom calls started, like before the pandemic, and people said, well, if you can do video calls, then why fly? Conferences are going to be dead, but conferences are busier than ever. People still want to fly and see people in person, even though video calls are easy. So it didn't really affect the airline or convention business like they thought. So I'm just wondering, what do you think? Do you think people are going to not do massages or things where people are in close proximity, or do you think it's just going to go back to normal?
Well, it's kind of interesting. The one would think that we've kind of settled into a state that we can get a read on. But I had my son's friend just got laid off from a hotel in Vancouver. I think it was part of the Marriott chain. And so the layoff came now. Why now? So there's so we're not sure, and there's additional layoffs happening, and there's additional chain stores closing, and we're seeing more casualties as we go through. And being in the trade exchange, I see when I take my foot off the gas of growth, how long it takes to get that going again. And I believe that we're going to see that with the economy. How hard is it going to be able to stimulate to get that going again? And will they be able to really go? I look at it from the point of view, so I'm a small business person, and I have been, and here's one of the, this is really where my concern is. So I'm going to take the position of this guy that was talking about. I'm 57 years old. My business was doing okay. It was my retirement. I thought I could sell it. It was one of those lifestyle businesses that offered me $60,000, $70,000, $80,000 a year, and I'm 57, and I could ride it out till I'm 65 years old, and I would have my retirement income set aside. And if I sold the business, great. If I didn't, that would be okay too. Well, with the regulations and everything else that's happened, I've had to close my business. It's gone bankrupt. Or I have to make the decision. I've got 60,000 in the bank right now. Do I take 40 of that 60 and do my renovation and put it into advertising, which leaves me with 20 that I probably will need for operating capital to get me through this? I'm looking at the peak season being June, July. I have to make it through to September when the consumer are going back to school, if there's going back to school, if the second wave hasn't hit already. So I've got all of this stuff, and I have to make a decision today, and I've got to talk to my landlord. Well, that guy that was in that position, he decided to close the shop, declare bankruptcy or whatever. And his position now is, I'm 57 years old. I cannot take up programming. There are no jobs available for a 57. Retraining isn't going to work. I am going to live in poverty for the rest of my life. Now that's the reality for a 50-something-year-old business person.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the guy that concerns me.
Yeah.
You know, what is that pivot?
Right.
Is there one?
Is this so we're old enough to have lived through a few recessions?
Yeah.
Right. Is this typical from your experience for other recessions? So some recessions are really bad and some are not so bad, but the recessions kind of have that thing in common where people have to make decisions and there's bankruptcies. And does this feel different to you or the same?
No, it's different. The speed. I mean, I think the financial crisis. I mean, we could sort of see that coming,
Mm-hmm.
But this one is just the speed and the how ferocious it was.
Mm-hmm.
That it was, and talking to some of my peers in the marketplace, they're saying, you know, first of all, that, you know, what the government is doing is not a stimulus package. You know, this is a staying alive package. This is money coming to me as a small business owner, which has been very helpful, by the way. That has been and I have a little bit of residual income in my business, but it's been really key in both the 40,000. I've taken advantage of the $40,000 loan, as well as I've taken advantage of the 75% coverage. So as a business person, the wage subsidy. So as a business person, that's been really beneficial. And if you've been able to take advantage of it, it might prolong your life or it might save your life. It really depends on business. But what's happened in this process, and I think this is probably the best explanation, is the acceleration of and the compression of what has happened in the last 3 months. And the analysis was whatever was going to happen in the next 5 years has just happened in 3 months.
Yeah.
So everybody moving home, that was maybe going to happen in the next 5 years. It just happened.
Yeah.
Everybody, you know, that's moving to shopping online and malls becoming redundant, that's just happened. Mm-hmm. So the speed at which we have become redundant, or some businesses become unstable or uneconomical, has just happened. Mm-hmm. And it's now like, holy doodles, there is no roadmap now.
Yeah.
What is this going to look like? And that is the difference, is that it has interrupted our supply chain. It's maybe made us more nationalist versus globalists. It's done a lot of things that are found to our foundation. Mm-hmm. And I think that's the big difference here.
Yeah, that is true. I seem to recall my dad saying that recessions, like, you wish they would get over with. Like, part of the problem with recessions is they take so long. And like you said, like the 57-year-old having to decide what is he going to do between now and September. Those, in a normal recession, those decisions tend to get dragged out. You know, people are just kind of hanging on, and now it's like very abrupt, like you said. So maybe that's a good thing. Like if you know, debt, there's too much debt, like all these things could get reset quicker. Maybe we can make that pivot quicker. Maybe. I don't know.
Well, it's one of those things of what are the unintended consequences of all the decisions that are being made. And I'll give you an example. Before this outbreak, my son-in-law and daughter went to Joey's. Mm-hmm. And we may have to cut that out. They went they went to Joey's, and so they had a meal, the two of them, and the meal came to $88.
Yeah, it's crazy.
So they just went on Saturday, the first night out since having little Millie, one of my grandchildren, and they went and had basically the same meal. Mm-hmm. And it was $128.
Really?
Really.
Wow. That is shocking.
Well, and I didn't compare the two bills, and they didn't, but they said, and we know that there's probably room for some exaggeration there, but it was that significant a difference that it was $128 bill.
I was kind of hoping it would be the opposite. I was hoping you were going to say the opposite, because
you got to think about all those small businesses. They have the same overhead, plus probably they've got the same staffing in the kitchen, and their food costs have probably gone up based on the economies of scale. You know, if we order $5,000 worth of beef, we get a certain price. If we order $2,000, no, if we order 5,000 pounds of beef in a month versus 2,000 pounds of beef in a month, we know we're going to get a better price for 5,000 than we are for 2,000.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So we have that all of those things that are going to trickle down, and ultimately the consumer and maybe the rich guy is the one that can only afford it.
Yeah. Yeah. That's kind of not a good sign. I mean, it's just one anecdote, but to me, I think with the uncertainty with the debt, that's not a good sign. You want to see prices coming down to stimulate people to say, you know what, it's kind of cheap to go out to the pub, let's go, versus, geez, I don't know if I'm going to have a job in 2 weeks. Do I really want to spend $130 for, a couple drinks and a burger or whatever?
But I think that's that whole new pricing model. So, the hair salons are another one, and the spas are another one. Anything that has the infrastructure. So a spa, and this could be for the next 2 years. No, let's use a hair salon. A hair salon, they have to not have every second sink empty, mm-hmm. and every second chair empty. So what does that business model look like for the landlord? And what does that business model look like for the tenant?
Yeah.
For the tenant, they're going to have to charge more, and they're going to have to so that it just has to get more expensive. Now, is this a trigger towards inflation? If it's a trigger towards inflation, we know where that's going to go in the housing market and the interest rates that are going to be affected as far as mortgages. So is that potential, and is that going to set off a firestorm in bankruptcies, foreclosures, et cetera?
Yeah, I tend to think that that is not sustainable. Like, there's just not enough business to really sustain an inflationary environment. So what happens is, in that case, people say, it's just too expensive. And then you have more business collapse. And the only people who can stay afloat are people who can find a way to cut the price, which becomes really, really hard. But it's just not sustainable. Like, people just won't pay a certain price. It's different than the inflationary times.
So what happens there, Luke? Does somebody say, okay, the boutique hair salon is gone, the 4 chairs are gone. So what we need to do is we need to take the old Sears building at the mall, and we need to open that up to a warehouse hair salon.
Yeah.
Where we've now got 30,000 square feet, and everybody rents a chair or however that looks, but now you've got that space. So does the big box of hair salon come in?
Well, that makes sense. Yeah. Cafeteria style dining, yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Very interesting. How did you get the idea for Trade Exchange? I think you told me years ago. When we first met, it was 2014, and I had a little downtown office, which I really miss. I'm kind of an introvert. Like, I don't like people that much, but I do love having people around in general. And I miss that. I kind of feel like I made a mistake moving out of there, because the rent was really reasonable and I had subtenants. So as a landlord, I learned, my mortgage broker teacher told me, he said, the greatest thing ever invented in the history of capitalism is rent. Rent is just great. So whenever I had a space, I always thought, there's an unused corner over there, there's an unused corner over there. So whether it's a vending machine or a humans are better than vending machines. But how do I generate revenue from that empty piece of floor space there. And I had some great co-tenants. I had an accountant and I had a landscape engineer who designed sprinkler systems. So they paid me rent. My rent was like $500 plus utilities right downtown, so kind of regret leaving there, but that's where we met. You sat on the couch there and you told me about Trade Exchange.
I remember it.
Yeah. So how did Trade Exchange get started?
So I came from the radio business, the media business. So I worked for the company. I'd worked in radio and TV and cable for I think it was 12 years. And so I was the general manager of a radio station in Edmonton. And I needed to get out of Edmonton. And so our budgets the industry was not that stable. There was acquisition, mergers, and so we had eventually, and so I was the general manager of the radio station, and my budgets were being cut. And I thought, you know what, we need to run this thing we need to find some money or some capital to run this thing in a more efficient. And we were a top radio station, and so what I said, you know what, we're going to start using our inventory. We're going to start using our airtime, and we're going to use it as our new currency. So everything that we're going to do, we're going to try to do in contra. So we said, okay, so from now on, any vehicles that we lease has to be trade. Any swag that we get, any promotional products that we're going to do has to be trade. Any signage, anything that we need for the business has to be trade. So we just started using our inventory. I mean, our promotions, our programming department hated it.
Right.
It was you're using up valuable airtime that we should be playing songs for advertising that really doesn't fit our radio station.
Yeah.
That dilemma.
But it's empty space, right? So
empty space. That airtime's going by. If you don't use it, it's gone.
Right.
And you can't fire sale it. You can't recapture it. And you take a look at any of that. So I saw this idea and I thought, there is so much inventory laying around out there. There's got to be a way to convert that into something. Now, my dad was I think he was a pretty good business person, and unfortunately, something came by and bit him in the arse that caused him to lose his business. And
what was that?
Well, it was in the bank, the time of the banking where the decision was made at the local branch. And so the local branch manager got hunted, and somebody came in from Regina or Moose Jaw or some of the big centers, and this is a small town, Saskatchewan, and
just pulled it, called the loan,
called the loan, and so he failed. And so my thoughts were, I can use this trade business, bartering business from a commercial standpoint. And I understood it immediately that this is just another currency and another economy. And I can help small business increase the odds of success. Mm-hmm. And that was really and it really was altruistic. I thought, you know what, I can just ride into Kelowna and be the white knight in business. All of these businesses will flock to Trade Exchange Canada, and they'll want to do business with me. And then I'll go to Vernon and Ticton, and pretty soon the whole valley will be humming, and we'll be doing barter. And didn't turn out that way, of course. But
good time.
That was how I started. It was
what year was that?
I moved out of Edmonton. I did trick or treating with the kids on October 31st. 1995, it was minus 35. The wind was howling, and November 1st, we came to Kelowna.
Wow! Yeah. So that was, and why Kelowna? What made you decide Kelowna?
Oh, I'd been to Medicine Hat. I'd been to move to Cal. I lived in Medicine Hat and Herbert, Saskatchewan, Swift Current, Saskatchewan, Calgary, Alberta, Vancouver, and Edmonton, and I thought, there's heat and water, and Kelowna's
beautiful. Yeah. One of the things that makes me a little bit optimistic is I believe if you could survey every Canadian, more people want to move to Kelowna than people who are living here today want to move out. So that's positive. If that's true, I think that's true. I think more people would want to move here than those of us who live here want to get out.
Yeah. My friend Dan Siegel, who owns Holiday Park Resort and who's my neighbor, has told me since I moved here that this is a great place. Buy real estate in Kelowna. Mm-hmm. He said there's no place in Canada like it. And now I think internationally, and kudos to Dr. Henry if she is the architect behind our how well we're faring. Mm-hmm. People will want to come to British Columbia. It's a great place to be. Kelowna is a wonderful place to be. So it's a great place to buy real estate, Luke.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you for saying that. Yeah. I mean, prices go up and down. This is one thing a lot of people think, prices go up forever. And in deep recessions, people think prices are going to go down forever. Neither is true. The human race moves in cycles. This is evidence from studying history. We'll always go through cycles. This one's unique because of the speed and ferociousness of it. But it's a cycle. It's definitely an adjustment, huge adjustment.
I think that the challenge for Kelowna is going to be, and it's absolutely amazing when you go into the Mission area, or the number of Lamborghinis and Porsches and Teslas. Yeah. I mean, a lot of money here. Like the exotic cars that are here, the wealth that is here is just unbelievable. So I believe that the Kelowna market has a ton of stability. As far as it's a great place to move up to, and it's a great place to move down to.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting you say that. Like people, I used to live in the Cayman Islands, which is very expensive, and people would say, $9 for a bottle of beer. Like, are you crazy? But they don't have any direct income tax. So I did a calculation. If you're making $80,000 or more, not paying any income tax, then you don't really care what the cost of a bottle of beer is, because you can only drink so many beers. Right? So if it's $9, $8, $12, who cares? Because it's tax-free money. Liter of gas is about $3.50. So instead of paying $70 to fill up your car, you're paying like $130 or something like that. But who cares? Because you only fill up your tank so many times, right? That's what you're dealing with. So I think with all the wealth in Kelowna, I think we'll probably tolerate high prices for restaurants and salons and things like that. But it's the middle class and the lower classes that I think are really going to be hurt by this. And it's hard to see really how that's going to turn out.
Well, that's that gap. I think that's one of the things, in whether or not we're really, I don't think it's as visible here as it is in other places, but that gap between the haves and the have-nots. But this might be the equalizer. The other side of it, this could be the equalizer where we have Singh and Trudeau talking about guaranteed income. Yeah. And that's a real possibility of that shift that we're in right now really will have unintended consequences. What is going to come out of this, I think, is really very interesting, because there's a gap, and there's folks sleeping right now, and the powers that be are going to see an opportunity for something that the progressives, the ones on the right, don't want.
Yeah. Interesting. So what are you doing now with Trade Exchange? You said you're starting to get busier, and in sales, like I think you told me this a few years ago, like just keep busy, like just keep picking up the phone and things will happen. You'll get ideas. You talk to someone and they say, well, why don't you talk to this guy? And you just keep momentum. But is there anything you're focusing on as far as Trade Exchange? Like, are you seeing opportunities, or is it just, returning calls and keeping movement?
Through the whole process, it's kind of felt like we've been pushing rope at time. It's just trying to get stuff done, and people are in such a position of indecision and not and it really is, who are the leaders? Like, this is a great time to be a leader, because there's all kinds of people looking for somebody to lead.
Yeah.
So it's sort of that inventory. What do we have? And so we have our, 400 businesses, 350 businesses that are part of the exchange. That's what we have. So what are those businesses looking for, and how can we deliver them to the consumer? So we've really been focused on the last little while is developing a different marketing tool for our small businesses, and it really is based on refocusing on local, which we are for all intents and purposes. We are a local company, and we work with local businesses, and so it really is a matter of is that the niche that's available to us,
right?
Staying local. So it really is. What do the local businesses need? What can they use to market their businesses? And we've settled on a couple avenues, both in the marketing space, that we can take our clients into that will make them stronger. So we have this idea that we're going to probably roll out in the next week, and we'll see what that does. And it really is. It's the entrepreneur, right? We'll see whether or not it has any legs.
I saw an email about it. Could you tell us a little bit about it? Like, what's the idea with that? Okay,
so the name we've come up with is Lolo, and it's LOLO, not LOLA, and
Lolo, yeah.
And believe me, I've listened to Lola a lot of times in the last little while, and it's a great song. But anyways, the idea behind it was that there's a lot of businesses that need an edge. So we've looked at. I know that somebody's doing gift cards. So what we've said is we're going to do gift cards and we're going to do couponing, and we're going to do some advertising. So Lolo is basically going to be, Lolo stands for Love Local. So what can we do for the local marketplace? And that again is a small business owner. Can we do something through a portal that's going to allow our clients and the consumer to find one space that has a group of companies that have good stuff that they want to sell, and they're going to use their product line to entice the consumer to come in and have that experience. So we want to create a portal where a consumer can have an experience, and they're going to get rewarded for the experience, either by buying a discounted gift card or getting a coupon and coming in and saying, I want to buy that, and I have a gift certificate or a coupon that gives me 20% off. So we want to create some traffic, and we want to incentivize the consumer and the vendor to do business that way. And there's a space for it. And so we're going to try to capture that space.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's great. And we can help you with deliveries. So it's kind of an inconvenience for a lot of people, especially with the lineups. A lot of people are like, I don't really like shopping at the best of times. I do like buying things. I don't want to stand in line. So if Luke goes and grabs it, a couple of trade dollars, it's simple.
Yeah.
Maybe we could help a little bit.
Are you doing the shopping? Are you doing the shopping for them too, Luke? So
I did for an elderly couple. I went to Costco, and I kind of regret it, to be honest, because it was, to be totally frank, like I've not been too impressed with certain outfits, like Costco. In contrast to Walmart, two huge conglomerate, big box stores. I just found the attitude a little bit tense and a little bit bossy, like treating people like children. Like I remember being in kindergarten, and if you were like off the line, in the queue, it was like you're in trouble. It's not a good feeling. In your 50s, it's not a nice feeling. And I just thought that they should be a little bit more grateful for the amount of millions of dollars in merchandise that they're selling, like their record sales, and they should treat their customers a little nicer. But I'm really excited about the idea of promoting local business, because I think there's so many benefits to that. And it's good for our neighbors, and it's good for our community, and it's good for our city. And Costco is great, but I don't really care if Costco succeeds or fails, because local business will fill the gap. I don't have any emotional attachment to them, and I'm a little bit pissed off with them. So I did do that for a couple of Costco, and it was really, it was a challenge. So someone says, bring me a bottle of Jack Daniels. Super simple. I know where to find it.
Yeah.
I know which stores are moving smoothly, right? I go, boom. But if someone has a $500 Costco order, that's a big job. Like, that's a half a day work. So the price is going to be different, so I can do grocery shopping, but large orders are going to be expensive, maybe not worth it for people. But, if you want a case of beer, it's pretty efficient.
So do you know whether or not the Great Canadian Superstore or Overweighties, whether or not they've got delivery trucks out already?
I've seen Save-On. I've seen Save-On big delivery trucks, and I think that's great. I think delivery is one of the businesses that, to me, seems to be doing really, really well right now. To me, that's great. And I get to bring someone a product and put a smile on their face, get paid a few bucks, and it's nice.
Yeah.
So
ideal.
Yeah. So I haven't seen Save-On Foods with a big van. I haven't seen any others, but I'm sure they exist.
And that's one of those acceleration aspects, right? So how many more people are shopping online? I'm not going to store.
Right.
I'm now done. I've had that experience of being bossed around by a non-essential worker who is now essential.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And for me personally, I'm excited to get out to restaurants and stuff like that, but I think I'll use delivery service more often. So not exclusively. So, I still go to the grocery store and I still do my thing, but occasionally it's nice to just call and order something. So for me, it's a bit of a combination.
Yeah.
So it doesn't mean like person's never going to go out again, never going to socialize again, but delivery service can be, a bit of a burden lifting.
Yeah.
Thing.
Yeah. I listened to a podcast not that long ago, and one of the things, the guy said, one of the things that's not going to be here in 5 or 10 years will be restaurants. So they will be one of the casualties.
I don't know. I there's something about human nature that loves being in a crowd. And, they say the same about sports. Some people think sports will be obsolete. I heard the NBA is talking about putting holograms of people. So they're going to have games with no fans in the stands, but they're going to have holograms and make it like fake fans, which would be like, I guess, like the Jerry Seinfeld laugh track. Like, we're just randomly laughing at or cheering for whatever the producers decide you should cheer for. I don't know. To me, that's a little bit weird. I don't think.
Well, that's the fun, I believe, Luke, in this process of. So now you think about the perspective or the potential technology being there, of course, of you buying a ticket to the Vancouver Canucks game, and you're buying a quarter ticket in the lower bowl. So you pay $17.95 or $70.95, whatever you would pay for that. But that's the vision you get. That's the vision you get.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, I don't know. There's something about being with humans. So, like, when I was really into sports, I loved being at the stadium. I mean, there's just, and if I had to be at home, I wanted to have a lot of friends or be at a bar where everyone was watching the same game. Everyone jumps out of their seat at the same time.
Yeah.
It's totally different than sitting at home by myself with a beer watching the exact same game,
Totally.
Special effects, slow motion, replays. It's okay. I'll still watch it, but it's not the same.
No,
it's just not the same.
No, for sure.
So that's what I was saying earlier about the Zoom calls. People say, well, convention business is dead. But really, people still want to get together. So I think there's still going to be something where people socialize and eat and drink and cheer for a team or watch a performance. I mean, I just can't see that entirely going away, you know.
No.
If someone gave me a ticket to a Toronto Blue Jays game and they were playing in Seattle and the stadium was packed, I would go today. I would. I'm not afraid. Wear a mask if I have to, but I'd be there. Yeah. So.
Yeah. Until about the third beer.
Yeah, exactly. Get rid of this thing.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I can't see I can see a lot of restaurants failing for sure because the rent, the payroll, the lack of customers, but I can't see them going away entirely forever.
No, there will be, I expect that probably again, we will have if you want to go to the restaurant, it's going to be a luxury.
Yeah. Could very well be. Yeah. Do you remember Morrison's Cafeteria? I think it was an American, but it was a franchise and it was a cafeteria. You just go with the plastic tray. You pay like $5 and it was like, yeah, give me some mashed potatoes. And, it was very cost efficient.
Yeah.
But
that's maybe the new model.
Yeah. There may be like luxury with table service and then, walk up to the counter.
Yeah. Right on.
Well, it's always great talking to you.
Luke, tremendous.
Luke Mankus is a realtor. He loves what he does. We asked Luke if he had any regrets about moving here in 2011, and he always says, yeah, one regret, and that is he didn't move here sooner. When Luke came here, he didn't know anyone. He didn't know the neighborhoods or anything or anyone besides his daughter, who was 6 years old at the time. So he knows what it's like. Now, he's an expert and has helped well over 100 single people, couples, families, and investors with their real estate needs in the Okanagan. If you're new to our beautiful city, Luke can help you get connected with great lawyers, dentists, carpenters, landscapers, swimming pool installers, you name it. And whether you're new to Kelowna or not, Luke knows real estate. He can help you find a great property, negotiate a good deal, and hold your hand all the way through the process until the day you get your shiny new set of keys. Luke is known as a no-pressure kind of guy. He's had clients where it took even a year or more to get them into a property. He just doesn't believe in rushing things. On the other hand, when you decide it's time to act, he's diligent, and he'll work day and night until the job is done. Give Luke Mankus a call or a text message at any time. 778-215-4273. Again, that's 778-215-4273. 778-215-4273. To chat with Luke,